how much is too much to spend on achieving your goals? There will be a cost. There is something you have to exchange. There is something that you have to leave behind. There is something that you're going to have to hurt yourself or hurt your finances or hurt your relationship or something. How could you have known, wait a minute, I'm spending too much to get there? Is there anything that could have triggered?
Well, thank God I didn't have like a heart attack or a stroke with all the.
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks, asshole.
Yeah.
What a prick, huh?
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Chris Harder Show. This is part 2 of the 2-part episode where we're talking about what cost is too high in order to pay for success. Now, if you did not listen to part 1 last week, please go back and listen to part 1. This is part 2 where we continue the conversation, where we share very personal stories as to what our success has cost us. And do we wish that we had it back, or was it worth it? I think this is an incredibly important topic for everybody to learn about and to think about as you dive in and chase down your dreams. And it's something to be highly aware of as well. Now, just like I did in the intro for the first one, I'm joined here by my good friend and my personal concierge doctor, Dr. David Boyd. And not only is he my personal concierge doctor, but he is a personal concierge doctor to some of the most famous A-list entrepreneurs out there. And so he's got great insight into the cost of success. I'm also joined by 2 other good friends, Justin Benson, who is a very successful tech founder and founder of the Bara AI agency. And last but not least, my good friend, Steve Valentine, who is a very successful real estate entrepreneur. Again, we're going to share our personal stories, and we also shared our personal stories in episode 1 of what price we have paid in order to be successful. And I just think this is such an incredible, important topic for people to start talking more about so that people can make their own decision. Is it worth it or not? So listen up, get ready, because this is going to be an incredible episode. I want to ask about addiction, and I want to frame it this way. Most entrepreneurs I know that are really true entrepreneurs and really successful, they're also addicts. They're addicted to work, or they're addicted to substances, or they're addicted to drinking, or they're addicted to this fight or flight. Like, you name it, they're addicted to it. I have always been an addictive person. A long time ago, it was gambling, like when I was in college. It's never been drinking. I've never had a moment where I was like, oh, I think I'm addicted to drinking. But I'm addicted to work. I'm addicted to making money. I'm addicted to how earning money makes me feel. And I think the safety that I think lies with that.
Yeah.
And then clearly I can shift my addictions quickly to being addicted to caffeine and being addicted to all the other substances that I had access to be amped. And I became addicted to being amped until, it caused the stroke that I had. So do you think it's true that all entrepreneurs that are cut out to be true entrepreneurs also fight addiction? And if so, what addiction are you guys fighting, or have you fought? Steve, we know yours.
I was talking to a friend that owns a design agency the other day, and he's creative. So he's a special kind of person, especially when it comes to addiction. I can say that because the creative community is a little bit different. So he was like, yeah, man, I'm collecting vices like they're infinity stones. I just need one more and I'll have the fist that I need. Yeah.
Is there a prerequisite to be successful enough to hit this massive milestone? Do you have to have an addictive personality?
I know some people that are like extremely militant health freaks that are extremely successful and not addicted to anything and whatnot. Yeah, maybe they're addicted to something. I guess you can.
Are they addicted to that militant routine then?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Like addicted to
Can you
going to
not
the gym.
navigate
What's
life
the
without being
definition of
addicted?
addiction, though?
Yeah.
You tell me. Like, I don't know. Did they counsel you on
No,
that?
I mean, the definition of addiction is something different for everybody. When you look at that, is that when you're addicted to something to where it is taking over your life and it's causing you to, whatever that choice is, you may not think it's a poor choice. I might think it's a poor choice, but it's one of those things where it's when something takes over and is the most important thing beyond everybody else and everything else in your life is really where true addiction comes in.
That's a good definition. Like, so someone who's addicted to work, instead of doing something with their family or making a memory, they're going to choose work, even though they know deep down.
That was my dad.
That's interesting.
So when you look at, my version of it, it was, I would choose, rather than sitting down with my kids and playing a game or doing something with them, or they wanted to go do something, I'd be like, no, I don't want to. You know why? Because I was either drinking or wanted to drink.
Yeah.
That's where the addiction comes in, where it causes chaos.
Doc, what is the medical definition of addicting?
I'll
Or being addicted?
I'll paraphrase, but it's basically, it's like an obsession. It's like this has to happen in order for the attempt to try to feel normal. So it's like it's this constant pursuit that's there that the person doesn't necessarily like consciously want, but it's this abnormal like obsession, the pursuit to do the thing.
When you look at your whole roster, would you say everyone has an addiction that they're directing or channeling in one way or another?
This is a specific population that we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I would think
this is hard-driven entrepreneurs I'm talking about.
Yeah. So I think across the board there is something that has to do with like a work addiction, and then that's a work addiction is different for like the psychological need behind it, behind like alcoholism, for example. Like it's just, yes, are they addictions? Yes, but especially here in the United States, we were just in Italy, so we saw this kind of differently. Yeah. Especially here in the United States, a work addiction is almost celebrated
and rewarded.
Yeah, it's rewarded. It's like you're doing a good job. Like spend more time at work, sacrifice more.
Yeah, hustle grind 24/7.
Yeah, 24/7, bro. Never stop.
And you get given money for it.
Yeah,
which is our representation of power,
right? So it's it's cyclic in that regard, and it's one of these things that, again, like I look at it, and I don't know if I've ever talked to you about it. Ever talked to you about the 3 ordeals?
No.
May I?
Yeah, please.
So it's a concept that I came up with that has been helpful to me because I was like, what's success? What do I want? What direction am I taking? Where am I going with my life? Why the fuck am I actually doing any of this?
Yeah.
Why am I here in the first place? If you look at it kind of like a triangle where there's a wide base at the bottom, there's really only 3 ordeals that we must overcome in order to achieve harmony and really a life worth living. Ordeal number 1 has to do with health and longevity. And we've already kind of touched on it, where it is, we've traded health and we've traded time in order for usually financial gain. And then once that comes on your radar, you start saying, oh shit, what do I actually need to do in order to actually be healthy and maintain that health for a long period of time? Why? Because you recognize, you reach a level of maturity that it's like, okay, I have to have that, because without health, you're dead. The second ordeal is relationships. And so until you master the first ordeal, you really actually can't truly savor the relationships. Because as a younger man, I can speak for myself in this regard, relationships are always peripheral. It was like we just
transactional.
Yeah, it's like people that oh, I've got to get this guy because what can they do for me? Yeah. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? Let's make this something happen. Why? Because you're still chasing this very juvenile view of wealth, of what wealth actually is, right? So when you actually start entering into the second ordeal of relationships, and you understand that it's like, hey, listen, the quality of my life actually comes down to the quality of the relationships that I have. And so when you start actually opening yourself and being vulnerable, giving love, receiving love, allowing that, you start noticing, fuck, my life is actually really getting better.
Yeah.
The third ordeal is wealth, but it's not the way that we actually define it. the wealth actually becomes less about accumulation of things, of houses, of cars, of cool watches, and stuff like that. And instead, it actually becomes, what can I actually do with this to actually improve the lives of others? What can I do with this for legacy to make sure that family's taken care of when I'm gone? And when you have to like ascend through these. So it's no mistake that we're having this conversation here today. And thank you for creating the context of it, because it's, you know, I view it as more of like an ascension type model. Where at the very pinnacle, at the very top, once you've actually mastered all of it, that very top point of the pyramid, that's when you die. Because that's actually the pursuit throughout life.
So right when you finally figured out you're dead, like that's the reward?
Yeah, that's the reward.
Well, thank you for depressing me entirely. I don't even know why we're
so stoic of you to say something like that.
Congrats to everybody. When you finally get it figured out and you reach that enlightened place, then you die. That's your reward.
I think the interesting point that you make to that is when you get to number 2, the relationships, is where I've realized my business, my life has totally relied on building relationships. I was having dinner with Christian a couple weeks ago. And
that's your son, for context,
my son,
for people listening.
And, you know, he's 21. And I looked at him, and we were having dinner with another friend of mine's nephew. He's a super wealthy guy. And I just looked at both. I'm like, you guys realize, like, at your ages, the war chest of relationships you have at your disposal, not the money, not the wealth you're around, but the advice, the wisdom, and the relationships that you have is pretty insane. It's things that I never had at 21 to be able to text 20 multimillionaires and get advice from, because my dad knows those people. My dad allowed me in those circles to hang out with those people and be able to create my own relationships. I think that's one of those big things that I've really focused on with the boys, is like, these relationships they're not transactional. Like, they are a lifelong piece, and how you operate them is going to make a difference when you move forward.
It's funny, we talk about what is success. It should be how much relationship capital you've accumulated, not capital.
Yes.
Right? Because even if you're broke, even if you want to start a new company, even no matter what you're encountering, it's the relationship capital that'll get you out, not just capital.
Oh yeah. If you've ever hit rock bottom in your life, which I hope everybody does. I don't hope it on you in like a
but
way.
There's value there. I know, it's such a weird thing.
You have to figure out where the end of that rope is, where the end of you exists.
Chris and I have at the same time.
Like, but when you get there, the only thing that bails you out is the relationships that you've accumulated in your life, you know, which is interesting because, like, yes, going back to your question of, can somebody be a successful entrepreneur without being a addicted person? I wonder if I don't believe that somebody can be a successful entrepreneur without being an obsessed person. They have to be able to be obsessed with the thing that they're locked eyes with, right? But choosing the right thing. But at what costs? Like what you were getting into, like if that negates all the relationships and all that stuff that you have going for you, then maybe the thing that you're obsessed with crashes and fails, and then you're just alone at the end of it. Like, that's a pretty shitty end of the road.
This makes me want to ask, to your point then, how much is too much to spend on achieving your goals? And I want to frame this, okay? There will be a cost. There is something you have to exchange. There is something that you have to leave behind. There is something that you're going to have to hurt yourself, or hurt your finances, or hurt your relationship, or something. I don't mean to be grim, but there's going to be a cost.
Growth
if
demands
you're a driven person, exactly. If you're a driven person that really wants to build something worth building. So how much is too much? How do we know? How do we quantify how much is too much when it comes to that cost?
I can go on that one. My opinion is that it's personal, and you don't know if you don't know what you want, right? So like, I have paid some prices with my own physical health that, like, I'm not willing to pay that price anymore because I have a clearer picture of what I actually want.
Give an example. I'm sorry.
Right. So like, in building the past 2 companies, I don't have that many friends anymore. Yeah. Actually, I don't see my best friend.
You've got
ever.
me, buddy.
You know, I got you. Yeah. Honestly, I've sacrificed so many relationships to get there. And I have gotten more out of shape and more ashamed of the way that I look and feel in my own body to get to some place, to realize that thing didn't actually satisfy me because it wasn't actually what I wanted in the first place, right?
So that was too much, right?
Yeah, so that was too much for me, right?
Looking back on your journey, how could you have known, wait a minute, I'm spending too much to get there? Is there anything that could have triggered?
Well, thank God I didn't have like a heart attack or a stroke with all the
Oh, thanks, buddy. Thanks, asshole.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm saying like, thank God for me. Like I'm happy that didn't happen to me because I'm on the same prescription plan you are. Like my desk is a graveyard of energy drinks and zinc canisters. And like just whatever I can do to keep the train online, basically. Right. But like I realized that if something catastrophic were to happen to my health and that, like that would be a cost too much.
Yeah.
Because I don't value great. Like the business is incredible. It's fun building awesome technology. All of that's great. But my true value is my family and my friends and my relationships that I have. It's okay if that's not your true value, but that's actually mine. So getting to a place where you realize that's actually what I want. And what I don't know is, do you realize that? Like I've come to that edge a few times where I was like health-wise, like, I feel like I'm about to like, I'm going to go too far kind of thing. I don't know if you can realize that without getting to that edge.
I can speak to that.
Know.
I had no idea. I mean, I knew I was consuming too much caffeine. I knew I was taking too much testosterone. I knew these things, but I didn't feel anywhere near any kind of danger. I didn't feel anything physically, right? I woke up one day and had a little stroke in my sleep. Like,
yeah,
that's the dangerous part is maybe if you're falling down drunk in a bush and you wake up in the bush the next morning, you know, as people are coming into work, maybe that's a sign, but most people, they're not going to have the obvious of a sign.
Yeah.
You know?
But you got lucky that you had a stroke in your eye and didn't freaking just not wake up the next day.
Yep.
Right. Like that could have been the end of that story.
I'm referring to it as my stroke of luck now.
Stroke of luck.
Yes. Yes.
Podcast name, Stroke of Luck.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to rebrand.
There it
Maybe we
is.
need to rebrand. Either one of you, how much is too much and how do you know when you're spending too much to get to your end goal?
I don't think you know until you overdo it and have to pull yourself back.
This is really depressing for everyone listening. So
No, it's
enjoy
not.
Enjoy the slippery slope, folks. We'll be here to pick you up when you crash and burn.
Here's the question though. What did you learn from financial ruin in 2008? And do you think you would be here if you had not gone
Absolutely
through that?
not. Best thing that ever
You'd
happened
still
to
be
me
working
at the
for
best
US
age it
Bank,
could ever
wearing a
happen.
suit and tie.
Yeah,
right?
Best thing that ever happened. And same with the stroke, right? Best thing that ever could have happened at the best age it ever could have happened, because both of those things were earlier than something like that should ever happen. And so then you have all this life ahead of you to make awesome decisions, because what happened to you was such a big thing. It was so impactful that it forces you to make different decisions going forward. Right? It's like a scar that you can't get rid of.
It also makes you empathetic and sympathetic to the relationships that you have when people are going through it. And it makes you a more valuable relationship when you can help lead and guide people through those things.
Yeah.
And so even me going through it, and I think the important part is, if anybody's struggling going through it right now, just realize you get to do it and you get to do it different next time.
Mm-hmm.
And every time we've gone through this, me going through the last 4 years, I got to go to rehab, and I'm grateful for it. There's no regrets, and I don't want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But had I not gone through that, I would be a different human. I would definitely be divorced. My kids would not be talking to me, and I probably would have burned the place down.
Mm-hmm.
But I got to choose to do that and make that choice. So, you know, the cost, sometimes you have to go through it to get to the other side. That's where the lessons are.
Justin said this earlier. He's like, I wish everybody could, and then we stopped ourselves, but we're actually, if we're really being real about life, kind of wish everybody could experience or have a big enough scar that they make far better decisions going forward. Because I don't think you do until you get that moment.
No,
I don't have a single person in my life that I look up to that has not gone through some extreme adversity and come out the other side. It's like part of the human experience. Like, I don't know if there's a different way. And some people decide to soothe their way through it with addictions and things like that. Or some people wake up and go, all right, I'm going to freaking do something like about this. And it's going to be hard and it's going to be shitty. I'm going to have all these hard conversations, but like, props to you, Steve, for like doing that, for choosing that direction. But that is a crossroads once you get to that little pivotal moment in your life. And there's usually multiple of those. It's not just one. So
For sure.
yeah.
Doc, what does it look like then? Frame of mind, all the super successful entrepreneurs that you coach, what does it look like to push yourself to the max? Because that's what it takes to do big things in a healthy way.
That's a good question. I think it's layered. And so, example for you. So it's a $5 million guy versus a $10 million guy a year versus a $20 million guy a year. They're all different guys. because with each layer of success, there's, you have more complexities that come about. There's more demands. There's all of these things. And so what I've seen with folks that, they're near a billionaire, a $500 million person trying to become a billionaire, right? So what happens is, I like to think of it almost like a bridge, right? Like a suspension bridge. There's only so much weight you can put on that bridge before the bridge starts to pop.
Yep.
Right. And so unless you reinforce that bridge steadily along the way, then you won't be able to manage the pressure that comes along with the success.
Yeah.
And so for guys and gals, it's different.
Yeah.
Like women have a whole other set of things. For guys, it's easier for me to see just because I'm a dude.
We have more women listeners than guys, by the way. So address both.
Okay, I'll address both. So ladies first. So for women, you start seeing, we're talking about strong women, right? As they become more and more successful, if they're not slowly building, putting good habits in place, like simple stuff, simple, not easy, appropriate amount of sleep, taking time for exercise, good nutrition. They're like constantly watching their health, trying to be preventative, doing things for their longevity. Unless they're doing those things on a regular basis, you start seeing anxieties come about. You start seeing generalized anxiety, difficulty sleeping, like panic attacks out of nowhere. You start seeing sometimes drinking. So, the women have a tendency more so wine, the whole wine and Xanax combo in order to get to sleep each night.
What's it say about me that
That's
you're
the California
literally
cocktail.
describing me right now?
It means that you're a woman and you got that amazing hair.
I don't know.
I'm jealous of it. So, so you start seeing these kind of things come about, and then you start seeing, problems with the relationship. So it's because they have all this tension. So if they're married, they start going after the husband, and the relationship starts to unravel. And that's kind of the pattern that you see for women.
So what's the healthy way that they can, push it to the max and still be okay?
So being aware, number one, that it's like, listen, there is always a price to pay.
Okay.
So for the price for this next level of success, understand it's going to be more taxing on you physically. It's going to be more taxing on all of your relationships, specifically those are the people that are closest to you. Those are the ones that are going to pay the price the most. So understanding that and saying, okay, we got to pump the brakes. We need to make sure that you're actually paying attention in all these areas and reinforcing those so that as you move on to that next level, you're solid.
Yeah. I love the reinforcing of the bridge as the bridge gets heavier analogy that you did. How can men do that? What is a healthy pursuit of maxing yourself out, but doing it in a healthy way look like for men?
I think the first thing is awareness. Okay. So most guys, they have some similar things that'll happen. So guys, when they get too stressed out, they'll start drinking because alcohol is readily available. Easiest thing. See, drinking, gambling, then it usually moves to sex. So hookers or strip clubs or a combination of both. Then it's like, okay, well, I need the stimulants in order to keep going. So they start off with Zyn packs, energy drinks, eventually get to cocaine.
Slippery slope for you, buddy.
Right?
Zyn packs. It all started there.
So it's like,
there.
but it's interesting because it's like you work with enough dudes and you hear the story over and over again. You're like, and I'm waiting for it. And yep, there it is.
Interesting.
Over and over and over again. So that means there's a pattern.
Yeah.
So if you're aware that and most guys, when you call them on it, be, hey, listen, this is the third time I've heard this week. You're not alone. They're immediately like, whoa, wait a minute, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
No.
Mm-hmm.
They think they're a special case or an oddball.
I'm some odd nutcase. That's like, no, this is actually pretty commonplace.
This is par for the course.
This is par for the course, dude. You're making $30 million a year. Guess what? Let me tell you what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
So if that awareness that's there, I think is actually step number one for anybody is to understand. It's like, listen, the more stress you put on this, like shit's going to happen. It's not an if.
Yeah.
It will. So you actually need to slow down. And that same pyramid that we talked about with the ordeals, bottom line is you need to take care of your health and your wellness, your mental health, all of that first and foremost. And that has to be a regular thing. And then it's like, okay, cool. Next step. Now let's move on to relationships. Do you have high quality relationships in your life? Or is it everything transactional? Do you have someone that you can call when the shit goes off the rails that, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Do you need to have a therapist in place? Like whatever it is. But it's like there's this building process that if you're going to do it right, You have to have a solid foundation.
Gosh, I almost want to start building a checklist. So you said have a therapist in place and have great homies that you could reach out to at any moment.
I think the relationships are the key thing.
Oh yeah.
Because it's not like everybody needs therapy.
Yeah.
We've all probably needed it at some point in our life or another.
Yep.
But it's like having that good basis of high quality relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, man. I mean, it's so valuable, you know?
Or even all those like blue zones, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like the one
Community.
common thing that they all have is like depth of community,
Exactly.
basically. Like
Yes.
those people in Sardinia, they drink wine every single day.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you ever see that there was a TED Talk from like 10 years ago? It was about the longest running psychological experiment in
no.
human history. No, I'm sure.
Is it about happiness or something else?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
it's,
I know that one.
you know this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like this Harvard study that's been going on for like since the 1940s.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I don't know shit about it. I just saw it.
Well, it was just that.
I couldn't quote you anything from it.
The punchline of it was they followed these folks going back all the way to like the 1940s or 50s.
Yeah.
And they followed them and then their families and then their offspring and so forth and so on.
Cool.
And men, women, the whole thing. And so now it's like thousands of people in the study at this point, right? And the punchline of it is basically, it's like, if you actually looked at what was the origin of human happiness,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the more high quality relationships that you had,
Mhm.
that's actual where human happiness comes from.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not Ferraris,
Yeah.
not Rolexes, not all the shit that we chase, which is nothing wrong with having the fun stuff. That's
Sure.
great. Like it's a perk for
It's
all
an
the hard
add-on.
work you do. Just an add-on. But it's like if you're like, okay, what am I after here? Joy is going to come from the quality of relationships that you have.
I'm
It's
loving
also
this.
interesting that our Western version of success has a isolating mechanic to it, actually.
Yeah.
So like what I mean by that is like you work harder, you got to dedicate all this time, you got to sacrifice relationships, you got to do all of this.
Yeah.
It actually isolates you, and then you make a certain amount of money and you feel misunderstood by other people. You get isolated even further. It's funny. It's like got like an inverse relationship to it. Almost.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Let's keep this checklist going. I like this. This question of what does it look like to burn the boats and pursue max success, but in a healthy way. Good relationships, maybe therapy. I would add meditation. You know, before I had this stroke to the eye, I had gotten away from meditation for a couple of years, or any kind of like journaling and meditate. Now I went right back to it, and I have zero stress. It's so weird how little things like that can bring you right back. I think it's good sleep. One thing Lori and I have done really well, no matter how busy we are, we prioritize really good sleep. We're in bed with, don't worry, like if you're like, yeah, but I've got more work to do. No, with a checklist that is nowhere near done. We're still in bed at 9:30, almost all nights. And
So you can work on the
sleeping
success.
8.5, work on the sex. Is that
The success.
Yes, that should be on the checklist.
Right.
And then, making sure that we get 8 or 9 hours of sleep every single night, so that at least we're replenishing everything that we're burning that day.
Yeah.
What else would you guys add to the checklist?
Can I
build
expand
burn
on the
boats?
relationship part?
Yeah.
It is one of those pieces where your relationships, if you think about a bullseye or a target,
Mhm.
right? You have to have that core group. Therapist is great, but you have to have that core group of people, whether it's men or women, whatever it is, to no bullshit, 100% vulnerable with no judgment
Yeah.
Open
that you
kimono
can talk
policy.
through.
Mhm.
So I'll tell you what happened is that after I came out of rehab trying to figure things out, the guys, Brian, Blake, and Carl that I meet with, they're all successful broker owners of things and manage a lot of people. And Blake invited me. And when I sat down for lunch in January, which is 3 months after getting out, I looked at the three of them. I love you guys. I said, but here's the deal. I fucked up my marriage. I just got out of rehab and I don't have time for bullshit. So if all cards are on the table, I'm here and I want to be here. But if they're not, I don't have time for this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed closeness with people that I could actually talk about the things that I was going through and get some good advice from people that I trusted, rather than just random advice from somebody I didn't know me.
Dude,
Yep.
this is the best thing to add to the checklist.
Yeah,
I
I
just
was
want to
gonna
repeat
say.
it. I'll use your open kimono friends where you don't have to hide anything so that nothing gets stuffed down.
Oh.
That's really good.
Well, people that accept you for who you actually are, like the good, the bad, the ugly, like all of it. Yeah, because like hiding who you really are and the guilt and shit that comes with that, like that's the shit that causes cancer for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What would you add to the checklist of how to burn the boats in a healthy way?
honestly, Steve stole mine. Like I wouldn't have gotten through life without, I've got a core group of people that have been around me since early days of college where I can be thoroughly transparent with. Mm-hmm. And me and my wife went through some stuff in our marriage that created this landscape where there is nothing scary to talk about ever again. Yeah. So like, I do have a core group of people that are around me that like, they know me and they know the good portions and the bad portions. And I feel like I'm accepted and loved no matter what. I got to be like a different person around them.
I love that.
Because the receiving part is you have to be able to receive not the criticism, but just the challenges. Yeah. Right. Like, hey, I'm challenging you today because this is what I heard you say. And I think these are the things that you might want to check out without being offended and without going, oh, fuck you. Right. Yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Add that to the checklist. Objective, direct feedback. People.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would add daily movement, right? Exercise, like it's a must, and healthy food. I know I'm a different entrepreneur when I feel fit and healthy than when I've been on a streak of eating bad.
Yep.
I think those things make up the checklist, and you're going to be successful, but in a healthy way, and almost have permission to burn the boats.
There's another one.
What is that?
High quality sex.
There we go. High quality sex.
Yeah. So like it's like no joke. I know it sounds like same sex that it's like
four guys. Of course they're going to put it out.
Get laid, bro.
I'm bringing that home to my wife tonight. Doctor said.
Yeah. But it's true. And it's true for a couple different reasons. Number one, in terms of a relationship, like your romantic relationship, nothing will bond someone more so than sex. And it's like, especially on the male side of things, I can't speak for females, but on the male side of things, it's like, guys are kind of labeled like, guys are just dogs. They just want to fuck. And that's all. Right. But it's actually, this is part of our biology where it's like, when we're with our other and there's this deep intimacy that's there. This is the reason why you go and you hunt the buffalo every day, is so that you can maintain like this closeness that's there. And I've seen it over and over and over again. Same thing back when I was married. It's like, if there's not high quality sex that binds two people together, inevitably they slowly start drifting apart into like roommate status. So it's
been there, done that.
Yeah, it's really, really important, And then all the other things that come along with it, with like, between dopamine release.
There's physical things that are better in your body. When you do.
Like, you get this massive like dopamine release. You get this, all of the calming and endorphins and everything that happens. It's like, it's so healthy. Prostate health. I mean, the whole thing is like, there's this massive laundry list of all these things that really come from good sex. And, we usually don't think of like,
I sleep better.
Yeah, you sleep better. You think of like, long lasting relationships that go, until death, and it's all sex is all involved.
Guys, you heard it as doctor's orders.
Yes.
Right now, anyone listening, you can just take this clip and bring it to your significant other. Be like, this is literally doctor's orders. Bend over. Like it's time to be healthy. It's time to be healthy.
It's like after I got my vasectomy, I got the doctor's like, well, it says 30 times.
Yeah.
It says 30. I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So here's
wait, do you think that, have you guys seen those? Sorry, this is like a little bit of a tangent, but like, have you seen, I was looking at the side-by-side pictures of like presidents, like after a president gets out of the presidency.
It's wild.
They're like, they look like they've aged 50 years.
Wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
But love him or hate him, you take the side by side of Trump.
He looks the same.
Exactly the same.
Looks like he might actually be younger. And the other one, you're like, what the hell is that dude on? Like
he's on Melania. He's on Melania. That's how.
Exactly.
Sex.
Yeah. We can need to ask him what that freaking checklist is for him to be like, yeah, that was cool. Let's do it again. Like at 82 or whatever.
We started this thing talking about all the ways that we go wrong in pursuing success. And then, we shifted it to creating this checklist of here's how to burn the boats and still do it in a healthy way. So let's put a bow on it with this. What is one thing in 2025 that you're going to commit to doing a lot better than you did in 2024 as you pursue your goals?
Sex.
All right.
Sorry, I had
Justin's
to get it out
sex.
It's probably not my real answer, but I'm 12.
Mine's still inward on myself. Like all the checklists that you just talked about is just making sure that my foundation after a year out of rehab has been my thing. So it's still focused on me, because you can ask anybody that's in my circle the difference that they have seen in me and how I show up. I just want more of that so that I can show up better, which I will sacrifice time at the office to make sure that I'm in this space. Like, funny story this morning, I got up and Wendy's like, what are you doing? And
I'm
I was
ready for sex.
right. I was making 6 coffee cups that had my protein, my rice, my macros, all the stuff in it. And I'm like, I'm a real estate agent. I can find a freaking microwave anywhere in the valley when I need it. So I have 6 protein cups to eat 6 times today, and I can stop wherever. So it's just the little
Better
habits and
preparation.
self-awareness and preparation.
Sorry, do you just let yourself into vacant homes?
Yeah, I know. That's what I think you were saying.
Why not?
That's what I think you were saying.
All right, real estate agents in Arizona, if you see Steve Valentine register on your lockbox.
They're going to ask for feedback, and all it's going to say is stop to use the microwave. It
Microwave works really good.
That's literally what I was thinking when he said
Grade
that.
A microwave.
That's okay. So yours is prep?
Yep.
All right. What are you doing better in 2025?
Mine is, I've been listening to a lot of Alan Watts, who's a philosopher dude. And there's this one statement that he has that the future is completely useless to people that can't figure out how to be in the present because you never actually live the future that you planned and worked so hard for. If there was a statement for my life, it is that right there. I'm always off to the next thing, always off to the next thing. So I'm in this journey of trying to figure out, okay, how do I actually live in the present and enjoy what I have, like right here and now, and not be chasing whatever the thing is that's in my mind in the future. And that part will never shut off for me. Like that's what I do best. Like I create, that'll always be a part of me, but like I'll be a very unhappy, anxious person if I don't figure out how to like actually live in the now, as crazy and I guess woo-woo as that sounds.
No, this real life.
Yeah,
one thing I do really well is I am so fucking present.
Yeah.
And it's my favorite gift to myself is like when dad died suddenly, I didn't have any shoulda, coulda, wouldas or anything. I made being present and making memories an absolute priority. It's worth going all in on in 2025. I love that. Doc, what are you going to do better in 2025?
I started doing it in 2024 and so started seeing massive results. So I want to amp it up in 2025. And that's saying yes to the things that will move me forward. I don't know if you guys have done this, but it's like, I learned, I got really good at saying no to things.
Yeah.
Which wasn't bad. Like
I was bad at that for a long time.
Yeah. So it's like learning to say no. It actually, it's an art form to it, especially when you can say, no to someone and not hurt their feelings. Right. But eventually I think I got too good at it. And I started actually shutting off opportunities for myself, And so 2024, more so towards the end of it, I started saying yes. One of them was going to Italy with you.
Yep. Was it worth it?
It was totally worth it. Yeah, it was amazing. So it's like, I'm like, okay. Like for me, it's like, I need to start seeing a result before I can make a commitment to something.
Yeah.
And so I'm really starting to see the positive results of that. So that's what I'm doing.
I love that. Mine would be compliance. Compliance to, here's my problem with my personality. My whole life, I've always thought if one is good, 2 is better. And that's not necessarily the case.
Anything worth doing is worth overdoing, baby.
Right? And that's how I've lived. And that's how I've lived. And that's what got me into trouble, right?
Yeah.
If one is good, apparently 10 was better, So I know what to do. And I've got all the resources in the world to do the right things. I even have the time, despite how busy, how many things that we're building right now. I'm really good at having the time to do the right things. So compliance to following through with them, compliance to when I'm prescribed a certain amount of testosterone, only doing that much. Compliance is what I'm going to do better in 2025 as I pursue my biggest dreams.
I'll remind you of that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I need a babysitter. Yes. All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks for your vulnerability. Thank you for just laying it all out there. Thank you for your time and your knowledge and coming in. I think when we get a group of people together like this, it's massively valuable for the listeners to get the different perspectives, to hear the different ideas, and to even hear the different areas that multiple people went wrong so that they can avoid those themselves. So I appreciate you guys being on.
Thank you. Very
Thanks,
cool.
man.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.